audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years,
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. And before we start, I just want to, Pierre, I want to extend our thanks to our great sponsors, TCS Customs and Logistics and Betway. We don't say it enough. I feel that want to let them know how appreciative we are of their support.
100%. I couldn't agree more. TCS has really gone above and beyond, and Betway's been a staple right from last year, and we're so grateful to both of them and all our other great sponsors, but in particular Betway and TCS. I can't thank Michael Maisland enough over at TCS and all the good management people and all the workers over at Betway. Thank you very much for your support.
Sure. And as I always do, I will give you my sick pick brought to you by Betway later on in the show. But Pierre, until then, we've got a great episode as always in store for everybody. Minnesota Wild general manager Bill Guerin will be joining us, and I want to thank him for doing this. We tried to get him last week, but obviously with everything with USA, Canada, and the Four Nations face-off, he was just a tad bit busy, also trying to run the Minnesota Wild at the same time, and then dealing with some injuries as well. So we're going to get Billy on. He'll join us in about 13 minutes here on the Eye Test, and we will talk to him, hopefully get some updates on Joel Eriksson-Ek and Kirill Kaprizov, and see where they're at right now as the trade deadline approaches 1 week from tomorrow. Pierre, I can't believe that March is on Saturday and we're 1 week away from the NHL trade deadline, but buckle up. I think there's going to be a lot of activity. I've been hearing a lot of stuff with the team that I cover the most, the Boston Bruins. Trent Frederick's name keeps coming up, but we'll see.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Oliver Wahlstrom.
Yes.
Was he on waivers earlier this year?
He was.
So my other question is, did he get picked up by Boston?
He did.
He did. Were they warned maybe you shouldn't do that?
They were right here in the Eye Test.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to get to that, and I was criticized by a lot of Bruins fans, and as they criticize you and I, saying, "Oh, well, this guy's great. He's got some great moves. Remember what he did when he was a kid?" He did that when he was a kid at TD Garden on Nesson Mini 1-on-1. I don't think a person's NHL status, 15 years later or whatever it is now, should be judged on something that happened 15 years ago, to be frank. And look, I think he's and I think you'll agree with me, Pierre, I think he's a solid depth AHL player, but this was not somebody that was going to come in and save the day for a Bruins team that really needed some impact players in their bottom six. I was looking at it actually, Pierre, the other day too, and we'll talk about the Bruins here a bit. I was looking at their bottom six over the last, going back to 05-06, since Peter Chiarelli took over. And as Chiarelli took over, and then they got Char and they got Savard, and they started to add in all the depth pieces there. One of the Bruins' biggest strengths, and I think you'll agree with me, was their depth players, was their bottom six guys. I mean, you and I have said it repeatedly how much they played a role in that 2011 Cup run and that Merlot line with Thornton, Campbell, and Payet.
You're rambling.
I know.
Stop.
I know. But
Here's
what I'm trying to say is,
what you haven't brought up and what you should have brought up right away, and I don't get mad at you usually, but I'm mad at you now.
Okay.
Outstanding thing that matters. Danny Pye was not drafted by the Boston Bruins. Gregory Campbell was not drafted by the Boston Bruins. Sean Thornton wasn't drafted by the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins today have a problem. Do you know what it is?
Pro scouting.
Correct.
Correct.
That's where you need to go. Enough of the other stuff.
Just so you know, though, my point, and I should have got to it earlier, I agree, is that this year is the lowest scoring output they've had from their bottom six since that season, since Peter Chiarelli took over.
Okay. Can I put my hand up again?
Yep.
All the slotting's off because you don't have Patrice Bergeron, you don't have David Krejci, and they didn't find replacements because pro scouting thought Elias Lindholm was going to come in and do that.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't realize that Pavel Zach is better as a winger than as a centerman.
Correct.
They wanted Charlie Coyle to be 1 or 2, and Charlie Coyle's, and he's our friend, a friend of this show. We love Charlie Coyle.
Yep.
Charlie Coyle is a legitimate top-end 3 depth player right now in his career.
Yes. Agreed.
So what Donnie Sweeney gets blamed for this, and there'll be a lot of guys that'll be giving me the hairy eyeball when I go on the road, and I don't care. Come give it to me. The Bruins got let down by their pro scouting. And I'm not saying all the pro scouts, they got let down because when they were a relevant team, their pro scouting was as good or better than anybody's in the league.
Yep, agreed. So my question to you, Pierre, now that you're looking at this and you see that deficiency, and clearly the biggest thing is up the middle there. How do you build up the middle in the current state of the NHL, whether you're talking free agency, trade market, or draft? How do you build up the middle again so then you can have those other depth players fall into place?
Well, you gotta hope that you can sign some free agents, and I'm talking big pro free agents, college free agents. Draft some. Maybe they're hoping Letourneau, the kid at BC, turns out right now. He's in a tough situation. He's slotted in the 4-hole. He's not going to get lots of huge minutes, so he's not going to have tons of points. And people are already going after that kid. Not fair. Not fair.
No. I remember when he was drafted, you said this kid's going to take a while to develop.
It's a project. I saw him play at St. Andrews. Look, it's going to take time. It doesn't matter. He's going to eventually. I think he will become a very good player, but that's going to take time. I think internally they were counting on Johnny Beecher to give him a little more offense. That hasn't happened yet. But Johnny Beecher's still a relevant player. He's a relevant player. My whole thing is, I kind of know how the inner workings of management happen.
Yep.
And guys get blamed at the wrong time, and other guys get a free pass. And that's what irks me. There are a couple guys, and I don't know who's in charge. Like, I don't know who's running it, but I'm telling you right now, all you need to do is look at the acquisitions in Boston, and you can see the GM's only as good as the information that's provided for him.
Yes.
And so that's when the best teams have these unbelievable guys that are so good at what they do, and they're very consistently good. I can't say that about Boston right now. I could have said it. I could have said it back in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Last time they went to the final was 19. So that whole time, the Bruins were a really relevant organization in the NHL. Really relevant. Do you think they're relevant right now?
No, I think they've fallen off that level there right now.
So what the exercise, and I'm sure Donnie and Cam have done this, the exercise is, okay, when did we start to lose it? And who are the bodies and the eyeballs we're losing it for us? Because there's some guys they're going to have their fingerprints on these decisions.
Yes. Yep. Would you agree with me, Pierre, that, maybe let's say 2021, they should have started really focusing on the center position instead of trying to see, maybe Bergeron will come back another year. Maybe Krejci will come back. You knew eventually they were going to retire. It seems like they sort of let that slide a little too much.
Probably. I think they got tantalized by what happened in 19. And to be, again, I'm not making excuses. I think the world of Cam and Donnie are transparent all the time.
Yep.
But I think a lot of teams, not just them, let their eyes off the prize because of COVID.
Yeah.
Take it for what. Now, some guys didn't. Other guys did.
Yep. All right. So bouncing around, that's our take on the Bruins here as we are a week away from the trade deadline. But Pierre, when you look right now, we're a week away from the deadline. What teams immediately pop in your head when you're thinking about who could make a move, who's going to strike first, or who's going to really try and swing one and hit it out of the park?
I still think Colorado's going to try to do something.
I'm with you.
I still think Tampa's going to try to do something. I still think the Rangers are going to try to do something. I think New Jersey is going to try to do something. I think they have to. If I'm Toronto, I'm probably putting all my chips in the middle of the table. I'm going to try to do something. I'm interested to see what Winnipeg does. Going to be really interesting to see what Winnipeg does.
Glad you went there.
Edmonton, I still think we had Jack on yesterday, Jack Michaels. I still think they need to do something. Big, courageous win for Vancouver. They're relevant now. Vancouver's back being relevant. Winning in LA last night in overtime. I think they're going to do something. So there's only so many. Eventually, there'll be only so many teams that can do something, Jimmy. But I do think there are a lot of teams that are potential suitors to do a lot.
I'm glad you brought up the Winnipeg Jets because that's a team I've been thinking about a lot, Pierre. We've discussed this situation in Winnipeg as well as Ottawa, that with the Canadian dollar and with the cap going up and the economy and all the financial situations outside of hockey that are now going to play a role in hockey, if I'm the Jets right now and I'm ownership, I'm telling Kevin Cheveldayoff, go for it. Because we don't know where we're going to be financially 3 years from now. We really don't. And we have a window to really make some damage right now. And it's not because you have done a bad job of building our depth here and that we're going to become suddenly a bad team, but because of financial stress, our lineup could change in the next 3 years. I think this is their window and they need to go for it.
Boy, that's really well said. See, that's a good, really well said, short, concise, succinct, terse point. It was perfect. I really admire that. I think that's really thinking man's hockey. What I would say is there's going to be more than Winnipeg that's going to be struggling. Here's something that hasn't been brought up anywhere. Some of these teams are going to be losing their regional TV rights. One in particular is Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
That's $25 million. You haven't seen that. That's nowhere.
No. Yep.
That's just one team.
Wow.
Look, again, I don't know how they do their math, and they know math way better than I do at the league office and at the PA. They definitely do. I'm just telling people really what is going to be missing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they must have different plans for different ways of raising money. They must. I know there's revenue sharing. I understand that. But there's no revenue sharing for losing $25 million of TV money.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Pierre. And, it's a funny thing. And you brought it up yesterday, and I still haven't seen it. Where are the TV ratings for this past weekend?
Oh, you're not going to see those.
I don't think so. So, there's things coming up where teams have to, maybe if you have that window right now to win because of where you might be financially 3 years from now, I'd go for it. I really would. And I think the Winnipeg Jets are one of those teams.
Yep.
And if we talk about them, Pierre, when you look at that lineup, what is the biggest need there in Winnipeg?
I like their depth. I like their size. I like their toughness. There's a lot there that I like. I don't know if probably another D man, probably not. And look, Pionk's been great. He's one of the more improved players in the league, especially shooting the puck.
Nobody talks about him either.
No, but that's okay. Look, he really is an improved player, but his shooting of the puck is a weapon. Josh Morrissey, I think everybody kind of got a taste from him before he got sick before the deciding game in Boston the other day for Team Canada. But they need somebody else. I think they need a shutdown guy, like a top end shutdown guy. Doesn't mean that they have to have him, but it would help. It would help.
But all right. And as I said, we will be bringing on Bill Guerin shortly here. Another team back east, Pierre, that I'm wondering, and I don't know if there is in potential financial trouble like maybe Winnipeg, but the Washington Capitals atop the Eastern Conference. Not hearing much about them right now.
I don't think you have to. So they've got, I give them so much credit. Brian McClellan and now Chris Patrick, who's a manager there. Their Hershey things, their scouts have done a phenomenal job. Steve Bowman, the whole group of them, they've done a really good job. I don't think people talk enough about the development. So 2 years in a row, they won the Calder Cup in Hershey. They've had players coming through there the whole time.
Yep.
They got really good coaching. They've got tremendous development. I know about their development camp from the summer. Dan Brooks does an amazing job going out and getting, free agents both in Europe and in the colleges. They're Washington. I don't know how much they have to do. I think they kind of like that.
In terms of college players, they've got two big ones coming that could make an immediate impact.
Ryan, that's what I mean. I don't know how much you want to mess with the integrity of your team, Jimmy.
Right.
Ryan Leonard and I think Cole Hudson. I'm not trying to scare the people at BU because he's such a good player, but I don't know if he gets to go back for a second year. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. And so that way, maybe you say, hey, let's pump the brakes here. We've got these guys coming. Yeah. We can do it internally. So it'll be interesting there. Another team I'm not hearing much about right now, and they're a little banged up, obviously, the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, Pierre. If you're looking at their roster, injuries aside, if let's say they were fully healthy, is there a certain area that you're looking at? Like, I got to go out and improve that right now.
100%. So they don't, first of all, Billy Zito and his staff have done really good work there. Yep. I think Paul Maurice, I know he's coached so many games and Paul's coached a long time. I don't think he's ever coached better than what he's coached the last 3 years since he's gone to Florida. I think he needed a little break, a little energizer thing, and he got that, and he's coached magnificently well, I think, down in Florida. people need to look at what they lost after they won the Stanley Cup. Brandon Montour's playing in Seattle. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's playing in Toronto. Jimmy, go look at, all the players that have moved to different places. It's not because they want to keep them, but when you win now because of the cap,
it's hard.
Guys get paid. Guys get their money, and some guys ask for too much and they have to move because they expect more. I don't think Montour really wanted to leave. I don't think Oliver Ekman-Larsson really wanted to leave, but that's kind of where you go. That's what happens.
Yeah, and I look at that T. Some people are saying, and I don't think it's fair. I still think he's got it. Like they're saying, oh, Ekblad has lost it a bit. I just think he's the type of guy that I want on my blue line in the playoffs because he's just so good defensively and he shuts you down.
Well, nobody ever appreciates great defensive players. As you were talking to me, I got a text from a coach. Okay. And I have it blacked out so you can't see it. And he was talking about a great defensive. It's funny, Jimmy, again, we never read the show. Just as you called, I looked and I'm like, Jimmy just talked about that. It wasn't about Ekblad. It was about somebody else. And all he said was, he's been great.
Yeah.
He's been great. And it's about people looking at stats rather than looking at what the player does to help you win.
Yep.
And so you and I do that. And that's why people need to know this. We text so much during games about different game here, different game there, player here, player there, coach decision, referee, whatever. And I'm trying to tell Jimmy, like, the one thing is don't overreact to all the points. Just focusing on who's helping the team win.
Yep.
And I think you're starting to get it because some of your opinions are so good. They're really good.
Appreciate it. And by the way, the check's in the mail.
I don't believe you. Hey, I don't believe you.
Anyhow, my friend. But I look at the Panthers too. I wonder, and we saw it a bit at times this season, Pierre, but one thing I wonder that could it set in as we get towards the playoff? They've gone to the finals 2 years in a row. And I think fans sometimes think when we in the media or we say this, that it wears on you and it catches up to you. They think we're overreacting, but it does. It does. I mean, when you have deep runs like that and you make it to the finals 2 summers in a row, it takes its toll. And I mean, let's look back to yesterday. We're talking to Jack Michael, and he didn't exactly call it a Stanley Cup hangover, but he did acknowledge that there's been periods of this season where, Connor McDavid or the whole Edmonton Oilers team as a whole is tired, and it hits you it mentally and physically.
It's ironic that we would talk about this now, considering it just came from Mario's camp, and a lot of our players that had won in 91 and 92 were there. And we were sitting around talking about Florida, and we were talking about Edmonton. We were talking about fatigue factors for teams that play lots of games. And, that's the one thing that even, talking to Max Talbot, who's young, Colby Armstrong, who's young, those guys were there as well. And they were the next wave. They were, the 08, the 09, the 16, the 7. They're the next wave of guys in Pittsburgh. And we all kind of said the same thing. And it was early in the night, so everybody was kind of level-headed. And it was like, probably the best team Pittsburgh ever had was a 93 team. And their record was insane.
Right.
They won the President's Trophy. We didn't do that in 91, or we didn't do that in 92. No. The 93 team won the President's Trophy, and they were a murderer's row of players. And everybody was in their prime. And they got knocked out in the second round. Yeah. And you do the debrief with those guys now, they'll tell you the very same thing. They were out of gas.
They were out of gas.
Even though they went to a 7th game with the Islanders and David Volek scored to win the game, to a man, and they're congratulating the Islanders, but to a man, they all said, we're out of gas. We had nothing left to give. Even if they had won that series, playing Montreal the next round probably wasn't going to be very helpful.
Do you remember when you were going through those the back-to-back years when you won? Was there something you and Scotty and the staff did as the year went on to prevent running out of gas?
Yeah, great question. So I was running the practices, and so we cut them back, way back. That was Scotty's ideology. Bob Johnson did the same thing as a head coach the year before. We scaled times of practice down. But the other thing, too, is giving some guys rests. Scotty had this unbelievable experience, Jimmy, from his time in Montreal. His experience in Montreal was overwhelming. And just People, everybody just says, "Oh, his time in Montreal was in the '70s." No, his time in Montreal started in the '50s. And learning from Toe Blake and learning from Frank Selke Sr. And then, getting his own team in junior hockey and winning the Memorial Cup, and then going back and working with the Canadiens in the '60s, and then going to St. Louis, where they went to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row. So all this experience is huge, but that's who you learn from. That's the pedigree that you learn from.
Right.
And so they were really aware. They tried to do it in '93. I wasn't there. I was coaching another team. But I know because I used to talk to Scotty almost every day, even though he was coaching Pitt and I was coaching in Hartford. And they tried to scale it down. It didn't matter. The guys said they had nothing left, Jimmy. There was nothing left.
Yeah. And it's amazing even today. And this is no disrespect to the guys back then, Pierre, but these guys come in even better shape to start the year.
Better.
Condition is so, and yet they still run out of gas. And that just shows you how grueling it still is.
But the game's faster now. I don't think the game's as physical. But the game is way faster.
Yeah.
Now, I think all those great players from those eras could all come and play today because their training would be different. And they might even be better because I think their hand skills, they're not they're not a lot of guys like Mario. They're not a lot of guys like Wayne Gretzky. They're not a lot of guys who could shoot the puck like Mike Bossy or Steve Shutt. I mean, I can go down the line. You look at some of these guys, those guys wouldn't miss on a lot of the chances that you see happen today. Yeah. So I think great players translate from decade to decade to decade. I don't think Rocket Richard would have a hard time playing, just like I don't think Boom Boom Geoffrion would have a hard time playing. Camille Henry would be small, 5'5", but I still think he could probably play. Now we're going deep into the Rolodex of old players, but Andy Batgate would be able to come back and play and crush guys. So. These guys are in better shape and they're better trained, but it doesn't mean they're better players.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. All right, one more team I want to ask you about that I think a lot of people are wondering what they might do, Pierre, is the Dallas Stars. And this is a team that I think, you'd agree with me. It's kind of been knocking on the door of going on a run, but they just can't get over the hump yet, kind of like Winnipeg. And I'm looking at that lineup right now. I look at the center position. I worry, even if he comes back, I don't know what the prognosis is, so I'm not sure if he is. Yeah. Even if Sagan comes back, I still think that, and I know they went out and got a center in Granlund, but I still think they could use one more guy up the middle, and they also need another D-man.
So I don't think you're wrong, actually. Look, remember they went out and got Tanev last year because of what you just said. Not so much at the center, but on the back end. Duchesne's not young. I know Jamie Benn can play center and wing. Not young again. They definitely, Wyatt Johnson, I think, will have a huge playoff. Just like I think Robertson will have a huge playoff. But you're right. What's going on with Tyler Sagan is huge. They do need – what's wrong? I mean, where are they with Heiskanen, Jimmy?
Right.
Where are they with Heiskanen?
I saw a report, Pierre, and it hasn't been confirmed by the team, but I did see a report that they're thinking it could be the regular season. Like they're talking until the playoffs that they're going to be without him.
So he's one player that I think could make the transition because of the pace of his game to not having a big adjustment to it. But he's not going to hit the ground running and say, boy, that's a dominant Miro Heiskanen. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Tough. So it's hard. It's hard. All these guys, there's a lot of pressure because there are only so many players to go around. And you know what? I know fans don't really care and I don't blame them. I'm telling you, there's still going to be expansion.
Yep.
So people are paying attention to their rosters. They are. There's going to be expansion.
That's a great point. You're right. A lot of people don't think about that and how that affects you approaching a deadline or free agency in the summer. That's a great point there. All right. I just sent a text to Billy Guerin. Hopefully we get him soon. Hey, maybe he's on a call.
Look, you also have to know they play tonight. They're on the road.
Yep.
In Utah. I don't know if he's traveling or not.
Speaking of, that's a team that just keeps hanging around. I keep waiting for them to maybe drop. They're still there. They're still within striking distance, Pierre.
I think the move from Arizona to Utah helped them. I think the ownership change helped them. Keeping consistent messaging with their coaching staff, I think, helped them. When a team moves from city to city, usually there's a coaching change and a management change. Yep. They didn't do that, so I think that was wise by the new ownership because everybody's singing from the same songbook, and they'll make adjustments as they go. And I've watched a bunch of games from there, not live but on TV, and really impressed by the enthusiasm of the fan base. Really, so they've got a distinct home ice advantage. It's like with Billy G when he comes on. I'm going to ask him the question. I'm just going to ask him straight up. They play in the month of March. They play 15 games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 11 of their 15 games are at home.
Oh, that's
11
great.
of 15. But wait, this is what's bad about it. Their home record is 500. Okay, their road record, they're 14 games above 500. How does that happen?
I know, especially in that arena with those fans.
So that's what I'm saying. So I want to ask Billy that because I wonder if
bring him on right now. You can ask
okay,
him
let's
right
go.
now. Here he is. Billy Guerin joined us from the Minnesota Wild right now. How's it going, Billy?
Oh, it's going great. Going great.
Yeah.
Just out here in Salt Lake.
Nice. Have you transitioned back, recovered from the Four Nations?
I have.
Yeah. What an experience that must have been, huh?
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was wild.
Yeah.
It was great. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Are we going now? Like, are we on now?
We're on. We're live, buddy.
This is okay. We're not backstage anymore. All right, so I can elaborate on this stuff. Okay, yes, it was incredible. It was. I got to be honest with you. It was one of the best hockey experiences of my life. It was just awesome. Like, it was. You know what? And it all goes back to the players on all four teams.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
What they put on the ice, like all those guys played for their flag, and they were the key ingredient in the success of that tournament.
How much can you take out of that tournament, Billy, towards building your team for Milano and Cortina going forward?
Quite a bit, Pierre. It's nice to get a look under the hood, before we go over to the Olympics. And you know what, I've got to say, whether a guy played great, played okay, didn't play well, whatever, all the guys were great. Mm-hmm. They really became a team quickly, and everybody gave us what they had, and that's all that we asked. And that, to me, that was the most important thing to me, is that they became a team very quickly, and they were fantastic.
Hey, Jimmy, before you ask, I want to give some credit to Billy and his staff.
Yeah.
What people don't know is, I think why they became a team so quickly is because of the pre-planning set up by Billy and the management team by bringing Mike Eruzione in there, to bring Mike Modano in there, to address the players before they actually went on the ice and played. Billy, I don't think you guys got enough credit for your team building exercise. I really don't.
Well, thanks, Pierre. I appreciate it. And listen, that was a great evening. We had Mike Eruzione, Rod McClanahan from the 80 team. We had Mo, who's all-time leader in U.S. Born players for points, and then we had Guy Gaudreau, Johnny and Matthew's father. And I just, it's important for generations to connect and to know each other. It's important for these young stars to know and put a face and get to meet some of the guys that laid the groundwork for them. And they ate it up. They were, once, Mike, once they opened up a chair for him, we lost him. He was over with the players, and it was great. They even had a FaceTime call with Chris Chelios, and all sorts of really good stuff that I thought was really important. And I'm just happy that the guys really took to it.
They did. I can tell you all the report. I talked to numerous guys that said this was unbelievable that management did this for us. So it was great. I thought it was outstanding.
And that behind the scenes video they put out there too. I forget who did it. Was it Amazon or YouTube, whatever, but they put it out there, Billy, and you could just see in the players' faces how much they were absorbing it and how into it they were. So that would be nice for you to, notice that as it was going along.
Yeah, because a lot of times, you get to a certain level, like you get to a star player level or elite at what you do, and then you become too cool. I remember training camp in Dallas one year. Mm-hmm. That was Bob Gainey's message. Don't be too cool. Don't be too cool to like embrace this, to enjoy it, to get into it, to have that enthusiasm about it. Don't be too cool. And none of the guys were. They were so they were just eating it up, and I loved it. It was great.
Bill, I don't want to go negative here, but I got to ask you the question. I know how tough a player you were. I know how many times you had to gut it out through injuries. Trust me, you and I go, as you know, a long way back. I wasn't sold on Matthew Tkachuk dressing for the last game. Was there any thought of him not dressing for the last game?
It had come up, but I'd like you to try to deliver that message to Matthew Tkachuk.
Well, I've had to do it for some good players like Matthew, but it's not a fun experience. It's not a fun experience.
But I also think, you know what, that some players do so much, and if they can go, the pros definitely outweigh the cons.
Right.
And I think he earned his ability to say, I want to try this.
Got it.
And
I respect that.
And if he was okay, you know, even if he could give us a little on the power play or whatever, even though we didn't get one, it would have been fine. But hey, look, that's just the way it was.
No, and I understand that, but I had to ask you the question.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Billy, getting back to the NHL and back to the Minnesota Wild. I was talking to Tom Fitzgerald when we were up there, and I asked him, you know, with the trade deadline happening so fast after you get back from this, how much are you leaning on your staff right now? I mean, did you delegate certain responsibilities, certain scouting jobs before you left? And I'm wondering, how did you maintain that, you know, both jobs at once?
Yeah, Jimmy, that it doesn't matter if there was a Four Nations or not. That's just what I do all the time.
Yep.
You know, a general manager never does this stuff alone. You know, if something goes well, we might get the credit. If something goes poorly, we'll definitely get that credit too. But you never do things alone. You know, we operate in business as usual through the tournament, and guys know their responsibilities, and we're prepared. That, you know, it goes back to the old saying, you know, surround yourself with the best people you can, smart people, and you'll be okay. And that's what we have here.
How do you explain the injuries with your group, Billy?
God, I wish I could. I wish I could. And it just, hockey's a rough game. Guys, you know what? Guys play hard. I will say that our guys play hard. And it's just, the game's never been faster. It's never been more aggressive. The schedule's never been more compact. And I just think, you know, it's a bit of bad luck. It's just, there's nothing you can really do to prevent it. I mean, the guys play hard, and injuries happen. Sometimes it's just unfortunate on timing, and, you know, they've been to our some of our top players. But, you know, you guys know, I mean, injuries are a part of it, and it's something we have to battle through.
What are the latest updates on Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson?
Like we've been saying, you know, Eki's week to week. So he's been he hasn't even been out a full week yet. But then Kirill, you know, we thought originally I said he'd be at least a month. Well, you know, hoping to be maybe like 6-8 weeks. It's going to be a little longer than that.
Okay.
So we don't really know, but it's just going to be longer than anticipated.
I don't expect you to give a number, and I don't expect you to give a time frame. Where are you, or how are you doing in the negotiations with Kirill?
No, we haven't. With Kirill, no, there's been nothing.
Okay.
We're just letting him, you know what, letting him get through the year, and we can address that later.
Got it. Okay.
Back to the injuries, Billy. As a general manager, how do you balance not letting that cause you to make a trade that maybe you wouldn't make necessarily? Like, how do you maintain the plan and balance it with the injuries?
You know, that's a really good question, because you're competitive. You know, we're competitive. Right. We want to help the team. But I think I think the most important thing as a general manager is to keep your cool and to stay calm, to stay on course, support the guys that we have in the lineup every night, and build confidence in them. Yeah. You know what? Let's fall back on our systems. Let's play good, sound structure. Let's get good goaltending. Let's have our special teams be good. It's not the end of the world. Let's just go out and do the right things.
So I'm just going to ask you an Olympic question. There's a kid that plays at your alma mater. His name's Ryan Leonard. Is there any way the door might potentially be open for him to be an Olympian?
If he plays his way on, then yes.
Okay.
Nice.
Andy's from Western Mass.
Well, that part I didn't want to go there.
So he's got two good things going for him.
I didn't want to go there with you. He does something else that's similar to you too, but we'll talk about that.
He's a hell of a player.
He's
Oh,
a
yeah.
hell of a player.
The Washington Capitals are very lucky to have Ryan Leonard. He's
Yes, they
a hell of
are.
a player.
Yes, they are.
And just keeping with the USA stuff there, how impressed were you with Faber at the Four Nations?
Yeah, he was really good. I mean, leading all the players in ice time in that last game, and being matched up with, being paired with Slavin. Slavin was incredible.
Oh my God.
And the two of those guys together were dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got, McKinnon and McDavid, coming in Mach 10 at you. They did a fantastic job. So, Brock really stood out.
Yeah.
What about a young guy in Montreal who played at BU, your former rival, Lane Hudson? Does size matter with picking an Olympic team, or that won't matter with you guys?
No, you got to be able. Yeah, you just have to be able to play. Size is size. Like what Lane has done this year in the NHL is incredible, and I think because of his size, a lot of people, maybe we're naysayers, but he's got a lot of people that he could say, "I told you so."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Transitioning back to the deadline, Billy, what's the chatter been like? Just, you don't have to bring up names or anything or who you talk, but just what has it been like since you got back from the Four Nations? Has it picked up? Is it sort of like mellow? Give us a temperature.
No, it's pretty mellow right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's not really heating up yet. I mean, we kind of go through this every year. We're still a week and a day away, and at this time of year, that's a long time. A lot of different things can happen.
Right.
Asking prices are astronomical and will magically come down maybe on trade deadline day. But that's the way our business is. That's the way things are done, and that's fine. You know what? I'm wondering. Everybody's asking me, is there going to be a lot of activity or this? I think there will be. I think this is going to be a really interesting year.
Yep.
What would you say, Billy, is a trend that you're seeing now that maybe would force you to adjust your roster going forward as a manager? Is there one trend in the league you're seeing saying, you know what, I didn't see that, but now I'm seeing it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I know our league is it's a copycat league, and whatever is successful the year before. I know everybody wants size, but if you can get size and good, that's great. If you get size and not good, that doesn't matter.
That's no good.
Size at all.
Size and slow is never good. Yeah.
To me, I like to try to focus on our team and what we think is going to win.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of different ways the league goes, trends, this and that, but I think it's really important to focus on ourselves, trying to improve on maybe some deficits that we have, and just keep going with the belief of what we think wins.
Billy, one thing I've noticed in the past sometimes is that, you'll hear a lot about a player going to a certain team heading into the deadline. It doesn't happen, but then maybe you see it happen in the summer via trade or free agency. Do you see that happening now more, where the deadline can become a prelude to something later on in the off season?
Yeah, I can't think of any examples, but
right.
The deadline's completely different than free agency, because
right.
You need assets to accomplish something at the deadline.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In free agency, you need just cap space and money.
Right.
That's it. So I don't want to say it's easier in free agency, because you're competing with 31 other teams. But if you don't have the assets, you're probably not going to be able to get that player on deadline day.
Gotcha.
I know you got a game tonight. I only have one more question for you. It's an easy one for you, because you were such an amazing leader. Marc-Andre Fleury. I go back with him, not as long as you, but till 2003 at the World Junior in Halifax. Give me your best Marc-Andre Fleury story as a teammate in Pittsburgh.
Oh, man. Well, when he made his best moment to me was when he made that save on Nick Lidstrom. That was the best.
We knew you were going there.
After that game, I was like, you know what? He really is a great guy.
It's awesome. Well, it must be great having him along for the ride, though, huh?
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. Like he's just since the day he came into the league till today, he hasn't changed. He's a wonderful guy. You know, he brings life and energy and laughter to the room. You know, I was just actually down at the pregame meal about an hour ago, and I looked over at the table, and I don't think I've ever seen him laugh like this. He was crying. Somebody said something to him, and he was. But you know what? To me, that's a great thing because he's 40 years old, and he's still enjoying his teammates and the game. And yeah, it's been great having him in Minnesota.
Billy, I got to tell you a little story about that Game 7. In Game 5, you remember in Joe Louis, you guys got pounded. You got
5-0.
You got pounded. So at the end of the game, I was walking down the tunnel in Joe Louis, and this big hand hits me in the shoulder, and it's Mario. So it's just he and I walking out together. And I said, hey, Ace, I feel real bad. You know, damn, that's a tough way to go down. And what are you talking about? He was all happy and jovial. He goes, Pierre, what are you talking about? Because we're going to win. I said, Mario, if you tell me that, I'll believe you. But are you going to play in the game too? Is that how it's going to be? And he goes, no. But I'm gonna be involved. And I wasn't there. I was doing the games, as you know. But I know he went to your dressing room when you guys weren't there, and he put a notice on the board. Do you ever think about that anymore? About what he did to maybe influence the outcome of that series?
I do, and it's kind of like what I was talking about before with, you know, all the injuries and how the general manager reacts, things like that. Look, we just got blown out 5-0. You know, we went back home. We won the next game, and going into Game 7, you know, we get this message from Mario Lemieux, and what it does is, you know Mario, he's as even keeled as they get, as cool as a cucumber. He gave that to us, though. He gave us that confidence. He gave us that calmness, that resiliency to perform in Game 7, and that really meant something to the guys. It meant something to everybody. It was impactful.
Jimmy, you can learn so much from moments like that, and I think that's carried over to Billy's managerial career. I really do. I've never rehearsed that with Billy, but I know the guys that were there, and they've told me over the years it really mattered a lot.
Yeah.
It's you know, when you know things aren't going well, everybody can be a good guy and a good leader when things are going well. You find out who the real guys are when you know what hits the fan. So that was a big moment for us when Mario did that.
Great stuff. Well, Billy, we'll let you go.
Thank
Good luck
you.
tonight, Utah. Good luck at the deadline and going forward this season.
Thank you,
guys.
Billy.
Appreciate it. Great being on.
All right.
Thanks, Billy. Thank you so
Love
much.
having you.
Thank
Billy
you.
Guerin joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. He's a good one. He's a character.
So,
love talking to him.
did I tell you the story when he was a kid playing for the Springfield Olympics? It was he and Scotty LaChance and a guy named Bob Kellogg. I was coaching at St. Lawrence. They played for a legendary junior coach, Gary Deneen, who's passed away.
Yep.
And meant a lot. I know he helped Billy a lot. He helped Scotty LaChance a lot. He helped Bobby Kellogg. There were so many kids in that team he helped. And we chartered a bus to bring Billy and his team up to play a JV game against St. Lawrence's JV and then Clarkson's JV. That's how much I thought of Billy. And I thought we were close for a while, and I thought we were close on Bobby Kellogg. I knew we weren't getting Scotty LaChance. He was kind of going to be you the whole time. And then I got a call from both players saying they were going to go to school in Boston because they wanted to play in the Beanpot, which I totally understood.
Exactly.
But, I have so many fond memories. I don't think people that weren't around at that time realize how good Billy was. Like,
oh, yeah.
Billy was big, and Jimmy, he could skate as well as any guy, whether he's 5'6" or 5'10".
Yep.
Like those guys were the fast skaters back then. The guys over 6 feet, they weren't the fastest guys. This guy was.
Yeah.
He could shoot the puck through a wall.
Yep. He had an edge to him too.
Well, when he got mad, but like if you've met him, so you know how big his hands are.
Yeah.
Those things got loose. Look out.
Yeah.
Like, he could get a little squirrely.
It was interesting. The first year I was covering the Bruins, Pierre, quickly, I'll tell you this. And I went back out for a weekend to see some of my old friends in Western Mass, and I'm at Brendan's Pub in Holyoke. And who sits down next to me is Gary Deneen. And I've never met him. We start talking, we hit it off. He says, "Oh, you're covering the Bruins." I well, you tell Billy, because Billy was on the team then. It was his first year there, or second year, sorry. And he says, "You tell him you know me, and he better be good to you." So I immediately did that. And Billy always took me under his wing and treated me well. He's always been a class.
Gary Deneen was a heck of a player as a kid, guy from Montreal. He played in the Olympics for Canada when they didn't bring pros to the Olympics. So in the 1960s, he was a heck of a player. Like, I was a kid growing up. Again, I remember the name, and I didn't get to see him play, but he played college hockey up in Canada. He was a really, really good player.
How did he end up down in Western Mass?
I think he was playing in the American Hockey League, believe it or not.
Okay.
I think that's what happened. You'd have to look it up, Jimmy. But I'm 99.9% sure, and that's a lot of years ago, road trip, but I'm 99% sure he had been relocated there because he was playing minor pro hockey.
I mean, he's still looked at as the godfather of hockey in Western Mass.
Well, he was substantially large. I mean, he coached so many good players. That at Springfield, they were called the Picks. That Springfield Olympic team. Oh my gosh! All those teams, they produced so many players, players.
Yep, for sure. We'll
Billy,
get into it there.
That was so, Jimmy. Great job by you. Billy was great. So that's impactful. That's insightful. You get a real behind the scenes look at what went on with the four nations.
Yep.
You get a major look at what's going on going into the trade deadline,
and then also the Olympics next year. Good on
you.
You.
So I like the one where, well, they're good enough. They'll play, and Ryan Leonard, I think, will be good enough. And I got to think there's this diminutive little defenseman in Montreal that's going to be good enough. I'm just putting it out there. Nobody told me that.
No.
I got to think that guy's going to find a way to be on that team. Talking about Wayne Hudson.
Because, and look, I'm not going to name names right now, but I do think there's some players we saw in Four Nations that won't be there. More veteran guys that are kind of moving along and will open the door for some younger guys.
Well, the other thing, though, I'm curious because Washington didn't have anybody there. John Carlson, I think, is going to get a long look. If they go on a prolonged playoff run and Carlson's important, that guy's a really good player, Jimmy. He's a really good player.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Good stuff. All right, well, let's get to our sponsors, and then we'll get to our Q&A. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. And then, of course, our wonderful, great sponsor, Betway. They still got that amazing special going on right now. If you go all the way with Betway, you can get a free bet up to $200, even if your first bet loses. I wish they did that for every bet, but I'll take the first bet. Scan the QR code or go to the details section on the website to sign up for an account and to redeem that welcome offer. It is only available, again, for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario right now. You must be 18 plus, and you must play responsibly. All right, I'm going to keep it.
I was just going to say, Jimmy, I got to be done at 5, and I apologize. I promise you.
I know you got the UMass Lowell game coming up
to do on TV tonight, but this is for our viewers and listeners. If you get a question in and Jimmy has it, I promise you tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah, we got the on campus tomorrow, but
Monday. I promise you we'll do it Monday.
All right, and I've got one bet. It's a quick 2-team parlay. I'm going to tell you right now. You want to go with the under. Calgary Flames, the Tampa Bay Lightning, Wolf versus Vasilevsky. As we had our guest yesterday, Jack Michael warn us, Vasilevsky is becoming the best goalie in the world again. He's found his game. And then you got Wolf between the pipes of Calgary. I like the under there. And then I'm looking for the Washington Capitals to bounce back from losing to said Calgary team there on the puck line, plus 154 over the St. Louis Blues at home.
Hey, you know who's doing that game on the radio tonight? Chuck Caton for St.
Oh,
Louis.
Really? That's
Yeah.
great. I didn't know
I'm
that.
so happy for our
That's
good friend
awesome.
Chuck. Yeah, it's the first game he's done in a long time. I'm really,
For,
really happy.
for who? Like a St. Louis
There's
station?
one of the St. Louis announcers is ill or can't be there, so Chuck's
That's
actually
awesome.
doing the game. I'm
Well,
so
Chuck, if you're
excited.
watching, enjoy it. That's awesome. I'm
So-
gonna find out and tune in. All right.
So
good
pumped
stuff.
for him. He better bring the heat. I'm gonna be busting his
will.
chops
He
if he
will.
does. He will. Don't
All
worry.
right. Let's get to the Q&A here because I want to get as many as we can here in the next 10 minutes. Let's go. All right. FFFF. Are there any great up-and-coming Canadian-born goaltenders in the NCAA?
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
Yep. And do you
Yeah,
want to
there are.
name them?
Nope.
Okay, there we go. Next question. Vincent Noyel. Hello, gentlemen. At the trade deadline, how do teams help players pick up and move? It must be hard on players with family.
Yeah, it's very hard. You're well organized. I know one thing. Whenever we made a trade and a guy was either engaged, married, or had a significant other, we always sent flowers. We always made sure if there were children involved, what the schooling situation was. Most teams, not all, but most teams do that. It's the ones that make the less noise do the most to help.
Yep.
And so you don't want to say much. You just go and get the job done. You make the player feel like he's part of a family. And the way you do that is include their family and all the stuff. So that's what you do.
All right. Next question. Tyler Lessier. Question. I won't pretend to be a scout, but Pierre, it seems crazy to me. Quinn Hudson hasn't been drafted
Nope.
by a team or signed. Thoughts?
He's in the same group as a lot of kids that should have been in the 2020 draft.
That's what I thought.
The problem is that COVID affected them. Jimmy knows my son was 105th on Central Scouting's list, never got drafted. He was teammates and locker mates with Quinn Hudson in Penticton, British Columbia. He should have been drafted. You're 100% right talking about Quinn. I've watched him for a long time. Tremendous player, great teammate. My son will tell you that as well. Freddie Harbinson will tell you that as well. So stuff happens. It's those kids, we call them the COVID kids. There are a lot that they'll end up playing. They'll end up playing, but they're going to do it a different way. Their route to the league or their route to pro hockey will be different. That's all. It's just the way it is.
All right. Next question. Tyler Lessier again. Question. Sorry, but I also meant to ask you if you guys believe a team will take a flyer on Quinn Hudson in the future.
Yeah,
and we just said it. Yep.
Yeah. No, you're not. It's fine. It's a good question. But there's a lot of players over the last 2 years that have been free agents, have been signed, and they're starting to make their way. Colin Graff is one of them that is starting to play games in San Jose. And then there's so many that you can see that do that every single year.
All right. Next question. Alex Ivanowski. What's up, Alex? Columbus and Detroit play the first of 2 games tonight. Pretty cool. I like that they're doing that home and away with the second one being the outdoor game. Any chance with expansion they could end up in the same division down the road? Going to be really good at the same time? Natural rivalry to me? That's a great question, Alex, and I like the idea.
That's a good thought. I think one of the reasons why Detroit ended up in the Atlantic is the original 6 with Toronto, with Montreal, with Boston. There's a marketing element to it. They're not trying to take away from Columbus or any of the new teams or Pittsburgh. Detroit is a massive rivalry. They're just in a different, but it's a fair point by Alex. It is. I just don't know. We're going to have expansion.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have expansion. I just don't know if we're going to have some relocations. We had a relocation last year.
Yep.
We might have relocations, and I'd prefer to be positive rather than negative. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather say we're going to have expansion first and then maybe relocations, but we may go the other way. Go the other way.
Sure. And by the way, underrated rivalry too. I don't think people really realize is Pittsburgh and Columbus too. That's always
it's gigantic. Well, hey, Columbus knocked Pittsburgh out of the playoffs 2 years ago. People don't even want to talk about that.
Exactly. All right. Next question. Alex Ivanowski, you mentioned last night Columbus has guys in their roster playing above their heads. Do you guys think guys like Johnson, Matejchuk, Marchenko, Voronko, Sillinger, and others are playing above their heads? Yeah, and I want to take pull that back. I was raw. I shouldn't have grouped everybody in there, but I think some of those guys you just listed are. I just think emotion has been a really big thing. I think the whole Gaudreau thing has really helped carry them this year, and they're really doing it for Johnny. But there's a lot of talented players. I just think maybe they're arriving a little earlier than expected.
I think their coach, Dean Evason's squeezing unbelievable life out of them in a good way. Really good. I think Dean's done an amazing job with his staff.
All right, let's go. What do we got? Alex Ivanowski again. Denton Matejchuk has really impressed me. He's smaller D-man. What's his ceiling? Because, boy, he can move and shoot the puck. By the way, Edmonton in Detroit is the real deal. Good job, Pierre.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that you appreciate Simon Edvinsson. I wish the team would have appreciated. I do think the scouts did. I just think management wanted to be careful with him. I think Matejchuk's got a high ceiling, very high ceiling. Top 4 guy, power play guy. 40 to. I think if he can be a 40 to 60 point guy would be really good for him just because of power play, but that's kind of where I see him.
All right. Next question. Posting it on 130. How do NHL coaches match or try to take the opportunity against a weakness in matching lines against the opponent, or for that matter, D assignments? It is not always easy to do it on the fly. Video.
Oh, yes, it is. You just have to know how to do it. It's a math. So what people don't realize is running a bench is like running math problems. And you have to understand time on ice. You have to understand the other team's coach's rhythm. You have to have, if you're going to be a matchup coach, you have to have players that can win faceoffs because that helps you gain possession and then match up, especially on the road. There are a lot of different ways you can sneak wingers on. You can match up with just 2 rather than 5. So you play 2 defensemen rather than 5 players with the 3 forwards. There's a lot of different things. The one thing you need to do to be a good matchup coach, you have to be unpredictable.
Yep.
You have to, one time you go with 5 and the other coach is like, why would he put 5 out there? Another time you come with 2. Sometimes you try to sneak a late change. There's so many different tricks to it, but I can tell you it's all about doing math. You're doing math in your head. If you're really elite, and that's why Scotty was so good. If you're a real elite matchup guy, you're doing math problems, and it's all about time. It's 25 to 35 seconds, and you got to figure it out.
Next question. Ron LaRoque, did you happen to see the 2-handed
yes.
by McKenna on Morey from Edmonton? He only got 3 games. Should have been minimum 5, no?
Yeah, but Ron, you got to understand this. Gavin McKenna is one of the few guys in major junior hockey that sells tickets.
I was just going to ask you that, Pierre.
Look, there's an economic part to this too. And I saw the same thing you saw. And I was like, oh, that kid got some moxie.
Did not see that coming from him.
Well, I don't know him personally. I just know him athletically, and I've seen like this amazing burst of speed. And Jimmy, we've been talking about him for how long now? A while now. Like going back to last year when he was, with Medicine Hat, and people are like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
He's really good. He's really good. Now, but Ron, 3 games it's an economic thing. It's economics.
All right. Next question. A, could you tell right away Chris Pronger was going to be a freak?
Yes, 100%. I did. I told Jimmy the story many times. When we first drafted him, he lived at my house in Hartford. Actually, it was in North Granby, Connecticut. I'd go to the rink with him and work out and skate with him. And this guy's unbelievable. He's only 19 years old. He doesn't have huge hands. He doesn't have gigantic feet, but everything he does is so fluid and so efficient. And he just a proud guy. Like Chris Pronger is the most amazing proud guy. He doesn't want to lose at anything. He's highly, highly intelligent. Very, very cerebral. Yeah. Very cerebral.
And he gave a shout out to Braden Shen, who, by the way, too, congratulations from Pierre and me, playing his 1,000th game tonight. All right, next question. Randy Workman, if you're the Devils, would you ask on Coleman if he was on the market?
Well, they had a good relationship with him, obviously, because he was there. Randy. I know that the general manager that traded him away to Tampa, Ray Shero, didn't really want to do that. It came down to dollars and cents. So, yeah, what I think, I'm sure that they had a good relationship with him. He'd be a good player for him. I just don't know dollar-wise what they're prepared to do in Jersey. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
All right, next question. Ron LaRoque, how come huge signing bonuses aren't used in the NHL like the NFL? Would that be used against the cap?
Well,
answer for that. Sorry.
No, it's all about money. There's not enough money to go around. It's just not. We're different. So those guys, when they get drafted in the other sports, they go right in their league. When our guys get drafted, they don't go right in our league.
It's
the only guys,
AHL.
Yeah. A lot of the guys when they get drafted too, they do get signing bonuses. They do, but it's spread out over time because it all goes into their cap number.
All right. Next question. Steve Lash. Next year's Olympics will have a hybrid ice size. Does that factor into choosing?
No, it's going to have NHL ice size.
All right. Next question. Alex Ivanowski, Flyers interest me. They already got 3 first-round picks in this draft. Besides Mishkov, I have a hard time identifying who's part of the young core moving forward and who's not. Lots of 25 to 29-year-olds. Yeah, Alex, I'm with you now. I think that's why.
Wait a second. Whoa.
Yeah.
Ty Forrester's part of the young group. He's not 25. He's the 2020 draft.
Yep.
They got a bunch of guys. Noah Cates is still young. They got a lot of young guys. Sanheim's not exactly a cagey old vet. You know, he just had a little bit of a breakout. Some of them are older. I agree with that. You know, Couturier's obviously older, and they've got some other guys that are older. But no, it's Drysdale is 22. I don't agree with that, Jimmy. Sorry, too fast.
I agree with the picks thing, though. That's some arsenal to have at the deadline and going into the offseason, having all those picks, I think could help them.
Depends on where the number is and where the pick is.
Yep. Oh yeah, because they're not gonna be that high. They'll be more middle. That's a good point.
Let's just see. Like I like to answer the questions without being a fanboy.
Yep.
And so I'm just trying, and I'm not trying to be mean to the team, but their roster's got a lot of young guys. Like their amateur scouts have done a good job. My concern for them is, you know, it's a little like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh keeps telling everybody, we got all these draft picks in all these different rounds over the next 3 years. How do you know how long it's going to take for those kids to play? How do you know how good those kids are going to be? Edmonton thought they had the world corner from 1993 to 2003. How'd they do?
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been doing this too long. Like, I'm just telling you, it's not as easy as everybody thinks. Oh yeah, we got 3 first-round picks.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1989 have 3 first-round picks. Check them out. They had 3 first-round picks. They took all 3 guys from Belleville, Ontario.
All right, next question. Steve Last, do you think Zach Werenski is a leading candidate for the Norris, and do you still think they need an offensive defenseman award and defensive award? Yes.
I think Zach Werenski should be in the discussion, just like I think Cale Makar should be in the discussion, just like I think Quinn Hughes should be in the discussion, just like I think Jacob Slavin should be in the discussion. But here's what I would tell you, to be fair to everybody, I do think they need to have a Bobby Orr award for the best offensive defenseman, and whether they want to call it the Larry Robinson Award or whomever they think was the best defensive defenseman of all time. Rod Langway could be in that discussion. Larry could be in that discussion. Mm-hmm. I think they should have 2. We have, you know what's amazing? We have the Hart Trophy. We have the Art Ross Trophy. Most of the time those go to forwards.
Right.
And then we have the Selke Trophy for the best defensive forward.
Yeah, so
but we don't do one for the best defensive defenseman.
Yeah, good points. All right, well, listen, save whatever questions we didn't get to.
Let's do 2 more. Let's do 2 more, and then I got to run. Don't want to. We're on a roll here.
Real Deal Prime. With all this talk about expansion, where do you see the league going, and how many teams can you see the league hold down the road?
I could see 36 teams in the league
eventually, and I do think Atlanta and Houston definitely are potential teams to get. All right, next question. Alex Ivanowski, the Wild are a team out west that is due to break out starting next year once Prezi and Suter contracts are gone. Lots of prospects, star power, and cap space. Agree. Minnesota is so due. Yes, and that's why Pierre and I were having this discussion earlier. This year's kind of it's a gift, right? It's not the end all be all that they have to go for it yet. So you're right. Good point.
They're playing with house money, and with all due respect to Kevin Fiala, who I think is a very good player, it's harder to find Brock Faber than it is to find Kevin Fiala. They stole Brock Faber.
Exactly. All right. So any questions we didn't get to, keep them for Monday. We'll have more. We'll be closer to trade deadline. So bring us those questions as well. Before we go, I want to tell everybody we already recorded this morning. Man, what an amazing!
Oh my gosh!
With longtime Army head coach Brian Riley, and he was just like, I don't know how to describe Pierre. It was just one of those interviews where you're sitting and you're like, this is why I do my job.
I goosebumps, especially when he did this with his wrists.
Yes. So I highly urge everyone to watch that interview. He's going to be retiring after 21 seasons at Army. Just an amazing coach and an amazing man. So check that out tomorrow on Campus Friday. Pierre, say hello to all my UMass friends there. Enjoy the game, my friend, and I will talk to you soon.
I'll probably talk to you after the game. Oh, by the way, I'm doing Tony Marinaro's show after the game tonight with San Jose and Montreal. So that's for our sick podcast people.
There you go. He's like the Energizer Bunny. All right, Pierre, go have fun.
I will.
He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.